Hello everybody, and we are back. Now today what we are going to do is I'm going to be using the dummy data to display some random items or some random elements into the web page, and then it's going to look something like this, just to create this dynamic feel and also make it very easy for us to integrate our APIs that we created on the back end on the front end, right? So as you can see here, we have the post here, and then when you scroll down you have this, and as you can see, it's not moving like how it used to move in the previous parts or in the previous times, and then these things don't also seem to soak through or appear on the nav bar over here, right? So now that we can see what we have, or we can see the aim, let us now begin with the actual project. Okay, so we are back in the project, right? So the first thing that I want us to work on, basically, let me just start the server. So I'm going to cd into client and then npm run dev, and then it loads up. Okay, I go back and then it will load up. So the first thing that we would want to work on is to be able to add the dummy data for the post. You want to render the post, right? Like multiple posts using the dummy data, right? And so let us start working on that. So what do? I'm going to go back into VS Code. Now as you can see, instead of us copying the posts on each line, just copying the posts on each line like this, of course it's not efficient, right? So let's handle it the right way. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to take this out, and I have two sets of assets, right? I have two folders here. I have the post one that has its images, and I have the users folder that also has its images. And then I'm going to put it in a Google Drive, and I'm going to leave the link in the description, so that if just in case you don't want to use your own image and then you want to use these ones too, you can just get access to them straightforward. And then I would also put the dummy data also in the description, just so that I'm going to put all of them inside the Google Drive file, Google Drive link, so that you can go and access them and use them in your project, right? So this is the data, and then this is the data folder, and this is the dummy data file that has the importations of the images and the user image as well. And we have the post, which has the ID, description, or caption, however you want to call it. Description or caption is still the same thing. And then we have the photo of the post, we have the date, and so you can see ID, description, and this one decided not to use a description or a caption inside this post. And you can see, as you can see, it's here. And then we have the users, individual users, and then their profile pictures, the profile picture images. And you can also see here we have friends, a bunch of friends that also have their own user IDs and then different names and stuff, right? So basically, now that we know that we have these, let us start working on the posts. So what we can do is we can come into the post here, and then we are going to pass in a prop. Okay, we are going to pass in a post prop. Okay, so the post prop here is what we are going to use. Now how do we use it? Inside this part here, I'm going to come and then bring my curly braces, and I'm going to call the users array here that we have inside this. We're going to call the post array that we have inside this dummy data, right? So you can see here we have posts. So I'm going to call this one. We are already exporting it. I'm going to come here and then I'll call it. So I'll say posts, right? And then clicking on it imports it automatically. Then I'm going to map through the posts real quick. Then I would say just one post. Okay, so for every one post, I want to do a few things. While mapping through the post, I want to render this post component, right? So my cursor is on the same line. I'm going to hold Alt and then up arrow key, and then it moves it up. And then now that it's here, I'm going to pass in a few things, right? So while we have the posts prop inside here, okay, that is here, that we want to pass inside this part, inside this component here as a prop, here's what we are going to do. So this post object that we have in here, we are going to use them in here. So now for the let's start from the username, right? Now the post doesn't directly have a username, it also doesn't have the direct profile picture, so we are going to handle those ones separately. Okay, So basically what we are going to do is I'm going to come here in the description side here, and I'm going to add the post dot description. Okay, but here's the thing, it's not every post that has a description like I reviewed here. For example, if you come here, this one doesn't have the description. So what's the best thing to do? The best thing to do is to put a question mark there, and then what the question mark is basically going to say is, hey, check, I want you to check if it has a description. If it does have a description, then render it. So basically that's what I'm just going to put a check here. And then what else am I going to do for the post pic here? I'm just going to say posts, and then I'm going to put dot photo. Okay, so now we have post dot photo. And then what else? I could come, and for the likes here, I'm going to say what? I'm going to say post dot like, and then I'm going to come here and also say post dot comment. Right, now that we have post dot like, post dot comment, and we have post dot disk. Okay, I think here is post dot date. Yeah, so we have post dot date here, and then for the username and the profile picture, we would handle them dynamically. So before we do anything, now that we have these ones here, what are we going to do? I'm going to come back into my newsfeed file here, and then I'm going to say what? Let's pass in a key. We need to pass in a key. Now the key is going to say each and every single post's what? ID. Okay, so that's how we are going to be able to identify them and then map through. Now after adding the key, we want to add a post prop that we have. But what are we passing through that post prop? We want to pass in what? Each and every single post object inside this post array, right? So we are going to pass in this post really quick. Then when we go and preview it, you should see that we have this one. You should see that we have this one, and we have this one as well, and we have this one, and we have this one. And as you can see, they all have different descriptions as we have inside the dummy data. Okay, and I think one of them shouldn't have, of course, which is this one. So we perform the check perfectly. You can see that over here we can see 20 likes, 15 likes, and you can see that we have 234 likes over here as well. The same thing for the comments. You can see now that we've been able to work on that, I need us to now move on to working dynamically for how to display the user information, which is, for example, the profile picture and then the username. Now how are we going to quickly work on that? We are going to use the filter method. Okay, now when do we use the filter method? Most of the time you use the filter method when you want to map through an array, but this time you are mapping through based off of on a condition, right? So, sort of like a condition type thing. So basically what are we going to do? I am basically going to come to the post side here. So let me work on the profile picture first. So for the profile picture here, I'm going to say users, right? I'm going to import the users array that we have inside here. Okay, I'm going to, where's the users array that we have? It should be around here. Yes, so this one, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to compare a few things, right? So where is it? Let me go back to the posts file. Yeah, so inside this users array, I'm going to filter through. But how am I going to filter, or what's the condition on which I'm going to filter, right? I'm going to say that for every user that we have inside this users array, we want to do a few things, right? I want to take the user.id, okay, of I want to take the user.id, or the ID of every user over here, and then compare it to what? The post ID. Okay, the post ID, right? And the post user ID, right? The post user ID, right? So we want to compare it with the post user ID to make sure that they are the same. Now when they are the same, you can now assign this ID to each and every single user in the users array, right? And then we can now take the first elements that we are bringing out, right? And then we can render them on the page. Now what are we rendering? What is the actual property of this object that we are rendering? We want to render the profile picture. Okay, so as you can see with the logic that we have here, when I go into my Chrome really quick and I go through, you can see that the pictures have been rendered as we expect them to be rendered. Okay, the PC seems a bit slow. Let's wait for it to refresh. Okay, yeah, it's here, and as you can see, the changes have been made. So it's the same thing. I'm just going to apply the same thing for the username. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my VS Code here. I'm going to go back into my VS Code here, and then I would quickly copy this, right? And then I'm going to come create and then paste it as well. And then for here I'm going to say well, user name. Okay, username. Now as you can see, when we go back to check and make sure, you can see that the usernames have been changed according to what is inside the dummy data. Okay, so now that we've been able to work on the dynamic display of the usernames and the profile pictures, we want to fix a few things. Right now, as you can see, as I scroll down, this part of the image, or this part of the right bar, just keeps appearing on top of the nav bar, right? We can fix that really quickly. Let's fix that. I'm going to go into my VS Code, and then I'm going to go into the right bar. And then over here for the styling, I'm just going to add one more inline style by saying z index, and then I'm going to give it a -1. Now that just pushes it behind the nav bar. Okay, so now that it's -1, I'm going to go back to it, and then when we scroll, you should see it going behind the nav bar, as you can see. Yeah, now that we've been able to work on that, let us fix this UI. Now we need this one to stand at one place and then scroll only when it is told to scroll, right? So what do? I'm going to go back into the sidebar, and I'm going to make sure that I am adding a few properties or a few class names. Now what class name am I adding? I'm adding sticky, and then I'm making sure that I have top of 50 pixels, and then I'll go back into the Chrome or our project, and then I'll scroll, and then you should see that the changes have been applied perfectly. Okay, as you can see, they have been applied. Alright, now that we've been able to fix this, what else are we going to work on? Now as you can see, we sort of have some repetitive data around here and around here, so let us work on the online one first. So what are we going to do? I'm going to go back into my VS Code, and then I'll go to the right bar here. Okay, I'll come to the right bar here, and then as you can see, we have a bunch of lists that we duplicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these lists. Let me keep highlighting till we get to the top. So I think this should be, let me see, the highlighting seems a little bit slow. Okay, so I think we just go to it. So now that we have these lists here that we've been able to clear out, what we can do is I want to put this one in its own component, so that it will be very easy for us to just pass in the props and just loop through them as easy as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this, and then I'll cut it out. Then what I'll do is I'll come here and create a new component. Now what's the component's name? I'm going to create a component with the name of online. So I'm going to say online users. Let me clean this. Okay, online users. Then I'll give it another. So I'll create the file saying online users.jsx, and then I have RAFCE to create it, and then inside here I will just paste what we cut out. Now that we have this, I'm going to pass in a prop. I'm going to say something like I'm going to say users, right? Or I'm going to say user. right? So I'm going to use the user prop, and then over here I'll just pass in user dot profile picture, user dot profile picture. Now that we pass this user dot profile picture, we have this. Now I'm going to come here and then also say user dot, I'm going to say user dot username. Okay, now that we have both of these props being passed through nicely, I would go to the right bar section where we are supposed to have the lists, and then I would just import it here. So I would say online friends, online users. So online users, it should appear for us to import. Should appear. Okay, I don't know why it's not appearing though, but I think that was how we exported it, right? Online users, so it should appear on the right bar, so we just quickly import it. Okay, so now it has been imported. Now that it has been imported, let us use our map to work on it. So I'm going to go through the users array as usual. Let's not forget our curly braces, then the users array over here, and then I'll map through these users, and I'll say for each and every single user inside the users array, or for each and every single user object inside the users array, I want to do a few things, right? I want to render something, but what do I want to render? I want to render the online users list. Now after rendering the online users lists inside here, we want to pass in the key and then the prop, right? So for the key, we are going to say each and every single user's what ID, and then for the prop, we are going to say user is going to take in what user, so the user objects passing through each and every single one of them. Now I think for over here, I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure that I didn't make a mistake somewhere. Yeah, okay, so it was just like how I expected it to be. Now it's here. Let us go back. I think we were in the right bar. So yeah, now that we've been able to implement this, we can go and check the browser to see if the changes were made. Now as you can see, they have been replaced by their profile pictures and then the usernames as we expected them to be. We can now move on to the last correction that we are going to make, which is this place, okay, or the last implementation with the dummy data, which is this section. So I'm going to go into the sidebar and I'm going to clean the duplications that we made over there. Then we'll create a new component and then start feeding in data. So when I come here, you can see that we have a list of items that we duplicated. I'm going to select all these items, and then after selecting, I'm going to just cut out to the first one. Okay, I just cut it out. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm just going to copy, or I'm just going to cut it out again, and then I would open another component. I'll create another component, and then I'll name this friends list. Okay, friends list, and then another component here, friends list, friends list. Okay, friends list.jsx. Then inside my friends list.jsx, I am going to run my RAFCE to create a component as quick as possible. And then inside here, I'm just going to paste what we cut out. So paste it, and then I'm going to pass in my object, right, the prop object, which is what, for this one we're going to use what, friend, right? So for the friend here, I'm going to say what, friend dot profile picture, and then over here I can say friend dot what. So let me just copy this, and paste it here, and then we just edit it by saying what, friend dot what, user name, friend dot username. Alright, now that we've been able to work on this, we can now come to the sidebar here and map through. So here I'm just going to call the friend array here. So I'm going to say friend. It's okay, so it's here. I just imported it. I'm going to map through it, and then I'm going to say for each and every friend inside the friend array, what am I going to do? I'm going to render a few things, right? So what am I going to render? I'm going to render the friend lists. Okay, the friend lists components here, and then I'm going to pass in my key as expected, and then the key is going to be what's the friend dot id, and then we are going to pass in the friend prop as well, which is going to be what friend. Okay, so now when we go back to go and check, you can see that we have a list of users over here that we've been able to use the dummy data to display them. Okay, thank you very much for getting to this point of the video, and in the next one we are going to be working with the like, with the use states, and all these other things. I really appreciate you for getting to the end. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.